The rain hadn't let up in hours. It fell in sheets, relentless and cold, bouncing off concrete and turning the city into a maze of slick reflections. People hurried with heads down, umbrellas angled, each step a dash through apathy. No one noticed. The woman in the yellow coat until she stopped walking. Her name was Elise Monroe, and she stood perfectly still on the corner of 5th and Waverly, rain clinging to her lashes like silver threads. She wasn't lost. She wasn't waiting. She was watching. Across the street, a police cruiser idled with its lights off. Parked, sloppily in front of a hydrant, half on the curb. Odd. But what drew Elise's attention wasn't the car. It was the man slumped over in the driver's seat. A uniformed officer, head bowed unnaturally, hand still gripping the wheel. Something wasn't right. Pedestrians flowed around her like a river around a rock, but Elise didn't move. Then, without thinking, she darted into the street, her boots splashing through puddles, traffic horns erupting in frustration. She reached the car and knocked sharply on the window. No response. She knocked again, harder this time. The officer didn't flinch. Elise tried the handle. Unlocked. "Hey, sir." The door creaked open, and she was met with a blast of warm, stale air and the metallic scent of something faintly wrong. The officer, mid-30s with a weathered face and jaw clenched tight, looked like he hadn't slept in days. His eyes fluttered open slowly. "Ma'am," he mumbled, confused. "Why are you—" "You were unconscious," Elise said, voice steady. "You need help." He blinked at her, then rubbed his face, breathing hard like surfacing from a nightmare. No, I'm fine, just tired." "You weren't sleeping. You were out cold." She scanned his features, noting the pallor beneath his skin, the sheen of sweat above his brows. "You shouldn't be driving." The officer sat up, wincing as though his bones resented the movement. He reached for something in his coat, paused, and looked at her differently this time, not like a stranger but like someone trying to place a face from a dream. "You shouldn't be here," he said quietly. "Not tonight." "I'm Elise," she replied. "I'm not leaving until I know you're okay." He exhaled. Detective Jordan Rains. Their eyes locked. Then, without knowing why, Elise reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a small thermos. "Tea, with ginger and honey for my migraines." She handed it to him. Hesitant, he took it and drank. Something shifted in his expression, less guarded, more human. "You from around here?" he asked. "Used to be," she said. "Came back recently to clean out my mother's apartment." Jordan looked past her into the downpour. "Your mother live on Bellevue?" "She did." "Why?" But Jordan didn't answer. Instead, he straightened in his seat. "I appreciate your concern, Miss Monroe, but really, you should go." The polite dismissal stung more than it should have. Elise nodded, stepping back into the rain, heart beating a little faster than before. She turned and began to walk away. Then he called after her. "Elise." She stopped. Jordan stepped out of the car, the rain soaking into his shirt in seconds. He approached her slowly, searching her face. "You said your mother was Elise Monroe?" "No," she replied cautiously. "My name is Elise. My mother was Catherine Monroe." Jordan went still. For a long moment, all that could be heard was rain striking pavement. "I knew her," he said softly. "A long time ago." Elise's eyes narrowed. "You knew my mother?" Jordan nodded, but his voice was hoarse when he spoke again. "I think you just saved the wrong man. Or maybe the right one." And with that, he turned and walked away, leaving Elise frozen in the storm, heart thundering, 100 questions rising like steam from the street. The next morning the rain had stopped, but the city felt no warmer. Elise stood in the kitchen of her mother's old apartment, staring at the drawer she hadn't opened in years. Dust covered everything, countertops, cabinet handles, the clock that hadn't ticked since Catherine Monroe passed. Last night wouldn't let her go. I knew her, a long time ago. That detective, Jordan, had looked at her like she was a ghost. Not just someone he vaguely remembered, someone important, someone whose loss had changed him. She hadn't planned to linger in the city. A week, maybe 2, sort through her mother's things, say goodbye to this chapter and leave. But now, she had questions. Elise slid the drawer open. Inside were curled photographs, old receipts, and a stack of yellowing envelopes bound with twine. Her fingers trembled as she pulled out the bundle. The top letter was addressed in her mother's tight, elegant script. Jordan Rains. Her breath caught. She untied the twine, unfolded the letter, and began to read. Jordan, I don't know if this will ever reach you. Maybe it shouldn't. But I had to write it, even if only to get the words out. You were never meant to be part of that life. You came from light, and I dragged you into shadows. What we did, it was necessary, but it cost more than I imagined. And I'm sorry. I hope you got out. I hope you became someone better than we were. If you ever meet my daughter, her name is Elise. Please don't tell her everything. Just be kind to her. Elise lowered the letter slowly. Her mother, secretive, hard, always distant, had written this man. Trusted him, or feared him? A knock at the door startled her. She opened it to find Jordan Rains, dry this time, dressed in civilian clothes. Not a badge in sight. You're early, she said. I wasn't sure you'd still be here. I wasn't sure either. He hesitated, then extended a brown paper bag. Apology croissants. A laugh escaped her despite everything. That's a thing? Should be. She stepped aside, letting him in. The silence between them grew thicker by the second. I found your name in a letter, she finally said. From my mother. I read it. Jordan's jaw tightened. I figured you might. What happened between you two? He didn't speak right away. Instead, he walked to the window, watching a city that never truly woke. I met Catherine when I was 24, he said. Fresh out of academy. She wasn't what I expected. What was she? Elise asked quietly. Sharp, fearless, dangerous. Your mother knew things about people, systems. She helped me solve a case that no one dared touch. She had a way of making truth uncomfortable. Elise folded her arms. And why did she want you to be kind to me? He turned, meeting her gaze. Because she didn't think she deserved kindness herself. Elise swallowed hard. The version of her mother Jordan described sounded foreign and familiar all at once, like a melody she couldn't quite remember. There's more, isn't there? She said. Yes. Tell me. I will, but not here. Then where? Jordan hesitated. There's a place. An old diner on 7th and Hamilton. It's where she always went when she needed to think. Midnight. You'll understand why. Elise's mind was spinning. Why would her mother keep this from her? What had she done that was so unforgivable? Or unforgettable? Okay, she said. Midnight. Jordan stepped toward the door, then paused. There's something else. What? Last night. You didn't just stop to help. You stopped me from doing something I can't take back. Elise stared. I wasn't asleep. I was deciding. Jordan's eyes glistened. And you walked straight into that moment. No hesitation, like someone sent you. He left without another word. Elise stood there, heart pounding, the letter still in her hand. Something deep had cracked open, something her mother had buried for years, and tonight, she would finally start digging. The neon sign flickered above the rusted door. Sam's Diner, open 24 hours. It buzzed like a trapped insect in the cold midnight air. Elise stood outside for a moment, staring through the foggy windows. A few late-night stragglers hunched, in booths, sipping coffee like it was a lifeline. She stepped inside. The warmth hit her first, followed by the thick scent of fried eggs and old coffee. It smelled exactly as she remembered from childhood, like mornings with her mother before school. Though Catherine never touched her plate and always left halfway through Elise's breakfast. Jordan was already in a corner booth. His eyes lifted. When she entered, less guarded tonight, more vulnerable. "I wasn't sure you'd come," he said as she slid in across from him. "I wasn't sure either," she replied. "But I want answers." He nodded slowly. "You deserve them." The waitress poured coffee without asking. The silence between them sat like a third person at the table. Finally, Jordan spoke. "Do you know what your mother really did for a living?" Elise shook her head. "I thought she worked in civil litigation. She never brought it home." She didn't lie, but she didn't tell the whole truth either. Catherine was more than a lawyer. She helped expose dirty cops, judges, politicians, people with power. She was part of a covert unit we used to call Internal Parallel, a watchdog network inside the justice system. Off the books, no badge, no glory. Elise blinked. "That sounds like something out of a movie." Jordan's eyes darkened. "It wasn't. It was dangerous, and your mother. She was brilliant, but the work tore at her." He looked down at his coffee like it held the memory of who he used to be. "She saved my career once. Maybe my life. We worked together on a case involving human trafficking tied to a police commissioner. It went all the way to federal judges. She cracked it open, but in the process she made enemies. Powerful ones." Elise leaned forward. And then she disappeared from that world, left everything behind, changed her name on some records, protected you. I always wondered why. "I was 5, Elise said quietly. "We moved suddenly. She said we needed a fresh start." Jordan nodded. "Because someone threatened you. She didn't tell me the details, but I think you were the reason she gave it all up." Elise's throat tightened. Her mother, so guarded, so sharp, had once walked away from everything. For her, Jordan continued, voice low, "I think last night she sent you to stop me." Elise stared. "She's been dead for 3 years. She knew how I think. She'd have known I'd break eventually, that something would get to me. She was always planning one step ahead." "And what were you about to do, Jordan?" He didn't flinch. "Turn in a report. One that would have brought down 3 senior officers and likely cost me my life. I sat in that car for hours trying to decide whether it was worth it, whether anyone would care. And now?" Jordan looked up at her, eyes clearer than before. "Now I do care. Because someone walked into the storm and treated me like I mattered. You changed something, Elise." Her hand trembled around the mug. The truth hung in the air between them. He had nearly chosen death. She had interrupted it, not by knowing anything, just by caring. "Why didn't she ever tell me?" Elise whispered. "She wanted to keep you clean, safe. She thought if she erased her past, she could give you a future." Elise reached into her bag and placed the letter on the table. "She said not to tell me everything, but she also asked you to be kind." Jordan stared at the letter like it was a ghost. "I'm trying," he said softly. The waitress came by, dropped off the check, without asking. As Jordan reached for his wallet, a folded slip of paper fluttered out and landed in Elise's lap. Not part of the check. A note, handwritten. She unfolded it. "He's not the only one watching. Trust no one, tell no one. It's not over." There was no name, no signature. Just a warning. Elise looked up, heart racing. Jordan hadn't seen it. And suddenly she realized, this mystery ran deeper than either of them had imagined. Elise couldn't sleep. The note haunted her, echoing louder than the words on the page. "He's not the only one watching. Trust no one. Tell no one. It's not over." She replayed every moment at the diner. Had someone slipped it into the check? Had they been followed? By morning, the sky was pale gray, heavy with unshed rain. Elise paced her mother's apartment, each floorboard groaning underfoot like an old warning. Catherine had always seemed paranoid, always checking the locks, keeping curtains drawn, shredding even junk mail. As a child, Elise thought it strange. Now it made sense. She pulled out a box marked "Keep Private" from the closet. Inside were manila folders, redacted court transcripts, sealed depositions and surveillance photos. Some were decades old. One image stopped her cold. Jordan Rains, younger, barely more than a kid, handcuffed to a hospital bed. His face was bloodied, eyes feral with rage. Another showed him speaking with her mother, both mid-argument. But on the back, her mother had scrawled, "He doesn't know the whole truth, he never can." Elise staggered backward, heart pounding. What truth? A knock shattered the silence. She froze. 3 short raps. 1 long. Her mother's code. Elise hadn't heard it since childhood. Catherine's safe knock. She opened the door slowly. It wasn't Jordan. It was a woman in her 50s, slim build, sharp gray eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. She wore a postal uniform, but looked nothing like a postal worker. Elise Monroe? Yes? The woman handed her a small sealed envelope. From your mother. Strict instructions. I was told to deliver it the week you turned 30, or if anything unusual happened. Elise blinked. Who are you? I'm someone your mother trusted. That's all you need to know. Before Elise could protest, the woman turned and walked briskly down the hallway and disappeared into the stairwell. Hands shaking, Elise shut the door and opened the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper. If you're reading this, I've failed. To keep the past away, you're in danger. Jordan may be part of it, though I never wanted to believe he'd cross that line. Don't trust what he says, only what he does. There's a list hidden in the lining of my red coat. Find it. It's the key to everything. Mom Elise felt the blood drain from her face. She sprinted to the hall closet. The red wool coat hung there untouched for years. She turned it inside out, ran her fingers along the hem, then found it, a small tear at the bottom seam. Inside, a folded piece of notepaper. She opened it. 8 names. No title. No explanation. 3 were marked with red X's. 1 name stood out. Rains. Jordan. No, she whispered. Her phone buzzed. A message from Jordan. Need to talk. Something's wrong. Meet me at her grave. 3 p.m. She stared at the screen. If her mother was right, this might be a trap. But if she didn't go, she'd never get the truth. The cemetery was empty, silent but for the wind whispering through damp leaves. Elise walked slowly to the headstone marked Catherine Monroe. Fresh flowers rested there, lavender and white lilies. Jordan stood waiting. You came, he said. I found something, she replied. His jaw tensed. So did I. One of the officers I was about to report, he's dead. Car crash, no witnesses. That's not an accident. No, it's a message. And I think I'm next. Elise took a breath. Did you betray her, Jordan? His expression cracked, hurt and confusion mingling. What? I found a list. Your name was on it. With a red X. Jordan stepped back like he'd been slapped. I would never betray Catherine, he said hoarsely. She saved me, I would have died for her. Then prove it, Elise whispered. Tell me what she never did. Jordan hesitated. And then, his voice dropped, almost trembling. Because the list you found, that was my list. I gave it to her years ago, when I found out who was hunting us. He pulled something from his jacket. A photograph. Elise's mother. With a man Elise didn't recognize. The man's arm was around Catherine, but his face had been violently scratched out. She told me this man was your father, Jordan said. The world tilted beneath Elise. My... What? Jordan looked at her with a terrible sadness. And he's still alive. The cemetery blurred as Elise stared at the photo. Her mother, young, vibrant, smiling in a way Elise had never seen, stood next to a faceless man. Someone who, if Jordan was right, was her father. A man she had never met, never even heard of. This doesn't make sense, she whispered. She told me he died before I was born. Jordan's voice was quiet. That's what she needed you to believe. Elise gripped the photo tighter, her hand trembling. Why? He looked at her, grief hollowing his expression. Because he wasn't just dangerous. He was part of the network we tried to expose. The reason she disappeared, she found out what he really was, and ran. Elise's knees gave slightly, and she sat on the damp grass beside the grave, the weight of revelation pulling her down. She was hiding me from him all this time, she said. Not just enemies, but her own past. Jordan sat beside her, careful, quiet. I helped her once. Found out where he was. She made me swear never to go after him, never to involve you. But now someone's left me that note. Told me I was being watched. This isn't over. No, Jordan said. It's not. Elise reached into her coat and pulled out the list. 3 names are marked off. You said one of them just died. Jordan pointed at the second. He was murdered in a staged robbery 2 years ago. The third, Catherine told me he'd vanished. And the rest? Still active. Still protected. Lightning cracked in the distance. What do they want with me? Elise asked. Jordan hesitated. To silence the last thread that can unravel them, she stared at him. You mean me? He nodded. And if I'd done what I was planning that night in the car, given up, ended it, you'd have had no one left who knew the story. No one who could help. Tears welled in her eyes, not just for her mother, but for the life she'd never understood until now. The woman who raised her wasn't just a survivor. She was a warrior who fought her entire life to keep her daughter untouched by the poison she herself drank. And my father? Elise asked. Jordan looked away. I found him 6 months ago. He's changed identities twice. Has a consulting firm now, security, intelligence, black ops contracting. Still working with ghosts. But there's one place he still visits. Once a year. Alone. Where? Jordan stood and held out his hand. Paris. Père Lachaise Cemetery. Next month. He visits a grave there. Someone named LD. That's when he's vulnerable. Elise looked at him, disbelief and determination in her eyes. You're suggesting I go after him? I'm saying your mother died afraid you'd never understand why she lived the life she did. You deserve that truth. And he deserves to know the daughter he abandoned isn't hiding anymore. She took his hand. I'm not afraid, she said. No, Jordan replied. You're your mother's daughter. Weeks later, Elise stood on a quiet path in Père Lachaise, the trees tall and quiet. She wore her mother's red coat. In her hand, the photograph. The grave marked LD was adorned with fresh white roses. She heard footsteps behind her. Slow. Measured. A man in a dark wool coat approached, graying hair, strong jaw, cold eyes. He stopped when he saw her. Something in his face cracked, recognition then panic. Elise? He said. She didn't answer, just stared. I thought, I know who you are, she said softly. And I know who she was. What you did. He took a step back, his voice tightening. You don't know anything. I know you tried to erase her. But she survived. You? And now so will I. She dropped the photograph at his feet. Consider this goodbye, she said. Then she walked away, past the shadows, past the ghosts, and into the light of the Paris morning. For the first time, Elise felt free. Not because the past was gone, but because she no longer feared it.